So actually, the first thing to do would be to secure the tractor up on some jack stands. But just to show you what's happening here, the tractor's in, the transfer case is in neutral, it's in two-wheel drive, and the differential lock pedal is up. However, both wheels are locked together and traveling. There seems to be a fair amount of slop though between one side to the other, but I guess that's to be expected. Fair amount of play. Oh, look at that. The one pin released because the other wheel is turning independent. Whoop, and they're locked in again. So depending where that pin is, there's one floating around in there at least. It locks and unlocks. There we go. So hopefully there isn't too much damage in there. There it's catching again. See, bang. Depending where that pin is, floating around in there, and further in the video you'll see what I mean. Okay, easy peasy. We pull off the tires. We have a look around. Part of it's just to document where everything goes, or where it should go. We pulled the wires out here, the harness, and disconnected all of those. And we did that with an effort to take off the ROPS. We've taken off the ROPS, and we've taken out the seat. I'm not sure which is heavier. That seat was heavy, and so is that ROPS, or I'm just getting too old. Anyway, I guess this comes the easy part now, right? Well, definitely is a mess in here. We'll just have to see how it goes. Did also realize that, unbeknownst to me, and I didn't pay much attention, is I do have a small leak from underneath here. From the last time I put it together, I guess. So I'll pay particular attention to that and see if I can do something to help that out. Okay, to take off the floor pan, there's 1, 2, and 3 bolts on the passenger side, and there's 1, 2, 3 bolts on the driver's side. Plus, you have to undo this bolt here to take these rubbers out, and there's 2 brackets which I've removed on either side that hold the mat down and hold the cowling in place for the air cleaner. Now, I'm not sure. I think this just slips off without taking any pedals off. Pretty sure it does. But we shall try that and see. Okay, these handles can be a little tickety-boo to get off. They're just a press fit, and right down here is a little bit of a bump on all 3 of these, and probably those 2 over there too. And I used this Wonder Bar and a piece of wood so I wouldn't break the plastic, and just pried up on it and give her holy hell, and finally she released and came off. Yeah. As long as they stay on, I guess that's good, but they sure tough to get off. Takes a lot of grunt. Well, I don't know how to take that knob off, but what I did find for a solution, rather than trying to pry it and with supports and everything else, it didn't move. There's a nut underneath that you can undo, and I think that shaft will pull straight up and out. And I've already done this. Okay, well apparently that's height adjustment, and up in there is a 15mm nut, which releases the shaft so we can pull off and so that you can pull off that knob, and hopefully see what happens. Okay, that's coming up and comes through. There we go. So that fits in there like that. But I don't know that this pulls off the top of this, or if it unscrews from that, or how it comes apart. Obviously I have a spider nest up in there. But yeah, that's how I get that one out. And the reverse is just to put it back in the same hole and slip it down there, I think. But I'll know better once I get back into this, once I get the sheet metal off, which is the next step. You can't really see it in there. That connector is supposed to go up into this handle, and you undo a bolt on this side and the matching one on the other side. This is the back connector, but the front one also has a connector under here as well. You have to get, which is, where is that thing gone? I think it's up, right up above here. Just a minute. Right there, maybe. Yeah. So that's that's the front one on the driver's side that has to be undone. So now that we've got the skin off, my little fan seems to be working fine. It's not broken. We don't have a lot of clutter up in here, a little bit of mud, but that fills up with mud if you power wash the wheels off and blow all the dirt up in there, which would affect your transmission cooling or your HST cooling. But next we have to remove the gas tank, and I think it comes off with just these two bolts down here. And there's some rubber bushings in underneath here to secure the gas tank in place. Back in there somewhere. Can't really see it with this light. And oh, there's bushing here too, rubber bushing there. One on the bottom, one on the top to help suspend the tank and keep it from rubbing through, since it is plastic. So we'll take that top plate off, which is our ROPS mount. And I do have a shutoff in my fuel line, which is underneath this filter. Also forgot that I put this magnet on top of my filter, hoping to trap any iron oxide that might be in the fuel before it reaches critical parts, like the electric fuel filter, or sorry, electric fuel pump. Okay, let's try that next. Okay, I don't remember what this little gadget does, but I know it's really important. I think it has something to do with fuel injection. Not sure. But the connector is a little tricky in that little tab that's there, you lift up on it. Initially you think you push down, but you lift up and then that connector just slips right out of there. So not sure where that went. There we go. Anyhow, I guess that's it, like there we go. But that's connected to this rollover bar. Well, actually it's the upper link for the 3-point, and then the rollover bar is underneath here, which is connected down to all that other stuff, which we'll get to. So after you extract the wiring harness, I think the next step will be to remove these side plates, which is those 2 bolts, maybe all 5 of those bolts. Yeah, I think probably all 5 of those bolts, because they're connected to there. Let's see here. Yeah. And the same over here. That nut's welded in there. The idea is to take this whole back assembly off, because we need to get in the side here. Now, unfortunately, because it's double framed, we can't just take off this frame and take off that frame and get in there. This is your main frame right here from front to back. So you have to pull that hydrostatic right out of there. So the next thing is we got to take, and I think that's welded there, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts, 2 bolts, and 2 more bolts. And that'll take off the side rails, and we have to do both because it's tied into the big support system in the back. So there's 5 and 2 and 2 more. Now, and there's a number of hydraulic lines to disconnect. There's 2 that come up here, and I think it's a number 18 metric. And seems to be something down there that I'm going to have to look at, which is this here rod there, whatever that is for. It does look like it goes in here and connects to something, so I have to pull that out or undo it because this whole thing comes back. It's a good thing to do hydraulics all at once, all the draining. I drained the pan or the case, and then I drained the filter. And there's also one hydraulic connection right down in there, which you get from the bottom, which is also 18. It just comes up. That's that line right there. Yeah, that's that line right there. And this line here goes up to the back, which has already been disconnected here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hydraulic lines. I do see a 5th one here. Where does that one go? Oh, I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but we've got an owl hooting at us, and we do have a great big owl that lives here. I shall examine that 5th one. So we disconnected or drained the case, took off the fuel or the oil filter. I guess I'm getting tired. It's the end of the day. I have 3 connections there to take off. 2 I've done and 1 I have yet to do. And then there's another one over here on the far side, which let's see if we can move this light with us. And we have one up top right there, which we've disconnected, and there's one right down in there, which you can reach from the bottom, which yeah, to disconnect. So there's 3 lines there, 2 lines here. So again, I don't really remember, but I believe these bolts stay in until I'm ready to lift the HST. I think this bolt here, which goes across to the other side to another arm, which comes back up here and to here, and comes down to here, which is outside of these bolts. And if this bolt here is removed, that should come out. Now these two and these two have to come out, and the same on the other side at the same time, but you got to take the weight with the lift. So we'll try it. Hello there. And to take off the side member, you also have to disconnect 2 bolts on the hitch, and then it kind of slides back. It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, but it works. It probably is a wise idea when taking off the side arms to pull the C-clip on that and pull these arms off, because they kind of interfere in taking that side piece off. You can see I got it this far. It's a little bit of wiggling, I'll probably get it, but I'm thinking when I go to put it back on, be easier to just undo those C-clips and pop those lift arms right off. Make sure you remove the bolt that holds the drive shaft right in there, that bolt. Make sure you remove it entirely because it does fit in a slot in the drive shaft. Now this moves, as you can see. We've got the hoist on the unit. We've removed the 4 bolts on either side, and we've lowered it. And now to try and slide it back without pulling the whole thing over. Okay, we wiggle that back, and we have freedom. Our hydrostatic unit is freely hanging here on the engine lift. All clear. And this is the side that has to come off, I think, for the diff lock. Looking a little dirty in there, so I have to clean that up a little bit. And oh yeah, there's the bolts down in there all the way around, and then that housing comes out. So it's not a big job, but for me, it's working by myself. It's not as bright as I used to be, so they say. Okay, let's see, let's get a little light going there. Yeah, this is the side that has to come off. So we'll put her on a table tomorrow. We'll just hoist that up and put her on some sawhorses and clean her up and pop that off and pop in the new hub and put her all back together. It's not a big job. It's a bit involved. It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. So then you have to take off the 2 cast iron or cast steel mounts. Don't drop them. Might be expensive. I have no idea. But anyway, there's 4 bolts in each, 2 at the front, 2 at the back. Easier to take them off. And I use some good old 2x4s to keep this thing mounted properly. And this is what it looks like without the mounts on. I've got the bolts all loosened, and I'm about ready to pull this cover off with this passenger side rear axle and just see what's going on in there. Of course, this is operator error. You can tell the sarcasm in my voice, I hope. But this collar with the long pins, which are supposed to go all the way through and into that gear. Look at the gap here. And look at how thin this is. These things are breaking because it's crap. Look how much movement is in there after they broke. This collar barely moves back and forth. I'm not sure how much engagement there is into the pins, but the frickin' leverage, that's ridiculous. This is the second repair in 2,500 hours. Maybe we need 8 holes, 8 pins, not just 4, to make this thing work right. But I'll tell you, something needs to be done because this is ridiculous. Shoddy workmanship. Now I've got to replace this carrier because, as you can tell here, these moving in here have elongated the slots like previously, or the holes, and made them into slots. These gears are fine, but that's the most expensive part. And you have to buy these as a set for $700 Canadian. Carrier is like 200 bucks Canadian, and this thing is just under 100 bucks Canadian. So I got a new one of these, and I got a new case, and I'm going to reuse those gears. But it just astounds me how ridiculous this is, and how Kubota won't take responsibility for it. I mean, look at the leverage. Look at the gap. I'm not the first person. I think it was Richard or somebody has his pins broke in the center here. My last one's sheared off even with the plate. This is halfway. So when the pins are breaking halfway, there's only one way that can happen. And that's because from this point to this point, there's so much leverage on those tiny little pins that they're going to break.